So I wanted to put myself out there and inquire about anyone who wants to hold a debate. So the reason I'm throwing myself out there in terms of debating, conversing about politics, the wage gap, religion, whatever, is because deep down in my heart, I believe the way we are currently debating Trump and climate change and all these other things is just fundamentally wrong. So I'll just share with you that I read a lot of news, and I'm actually, I'll check CNN, I'll check Fox, I'll check the news. And and everyone says there's no discourse going on, there's no real discussion going on. And when there is discussion, it never really, both sides don't really listen to each other. I was watching Tucker Carlson the other day, and the Democrats do this too. They bring on a guest and they frame the discussion a certain way, and both sides don't get heard. They make a point, the other point counters it, and both sides don't come to an understanding, a mutual understanding. So I think the problem with this stems from that people are debating facts. They're debating facts and not feelings. So my original thinking comes from this model called nonviolent communication, where facts are the surface layer. If you want to heal a conflict with someone, you gotta agree on the facts, but also dive into the feelings as well. And in our day and age, people never go into feelings. Like if we have two, you can imagine Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? How do you feel about taxes? And they'd say, well, the rate is this and that's blah, blah, blah. And they wouldn't actually admit how they personally felt about it. And if we don't get into feelings, we're never gonna have actual understanding. We're never gonna be able to move the dialogue forward. There's been research that shows whenever people talk about politics, there's a part of their brain that gets lit up like they're in a war zone, like they're under fire, like they're fighting someone. And when you're in a war zone, you ain't listening. That's for damn sure. So I wanted to put myself out there. I'm willing to hold a conversation. Hey, Ollie. I'm willing to hold a conversation with anyone who wants to discuss something controversial. I'm pretty open to it. But here's the thing. We have to approach it in the nonviolent communication format. So that's where you state a fact, or you state a fact and I have to agree on that fact, and then we go into the feelings underneath it. And then we'll go with it from there. I'm pretty open on where a conversation heads. But instead of going back and forth, countering each other's points. Like, you said this, well, did you hear about this fact? And this fact counters that fact. You're wrong. No. That style of debate doesn't work. Like, that's why I'm going live right now, is because I read on the news people debating with facts. And I'm like, you guys, facts don't convince people. Feelings convince people. If you try to sell something, you don't sell with the facts, you sell with the feelings. You don't move someone to take a different action or to change their mindset without getting into feelings. And so when we're talking about these controversial issues, people's feelings get stirred up. They feel like they're in a war zone. And unless there's space for people to admit how they feel, like scared, hurt, angry, unless there's space for that, they will never be open to changing their mind. And my good friend Britt just logged on, so I'll just say that he actually inspired me to do this stuff, because Britt holds these debates all the time, and this is something that I really believe in. So for those of you just joining, I've decided to put myself out there and issue an open invitation to anyone who wants to talk about something controversial under certain circumstances. And those certain circumstances being, we talk about the facts, which is important, but then we also talk about the feelings. So what that means is you might be talking about taxes, like, what the rate should be or whatever, and that's a fact. And then both people, speaker, the debater, me and you or whoever, we also got to talk about the feelings, how that actually makes us feel. And the reason this is so important is because politics, and in this day and age, we're always talking about facts, and we're never talking about how it actually feels in our bodies with each other. So if you look at any talk show host, they're talking facts, they're talking points, and then they counter each other's points. They're fighting each other. And whenever people are fighting each other, you're never, ever, ever going to convince someone to change their mind. Ever. Period. No way in hell. So I really feel strongly about this, that if we're to further debate in our society, and there's some things we need to discuss, you name it, taxes, abortion, global warming, Trump, you name it, social media, if we don't talk in a different manner, something that's based on this thing called nonviolent communication, we're never going to solve these issues. In fact, we're going to become more entrenched in our positions. And I think we can all realize that, like, the partisanship in our country is insane. Democrats on this side are getting more intense. Republicans on this side are getting more intense. And whenever they talk, they're fighting each other. They're fighting. Arrgh. And no one ever changes their mind. No one ever changes their mind. And I don't know what is going to come out of talking in a controversial topics, doing this format of facts and feelings. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do believe that leaders and people who have audiences, they like just the stereotypical example of that I mentioned earlier, Tucker Carlson, and say what's his name, Stephen Colbert, right? Like, if they got on line, if they had a discussion, they would probably be debating facts, but none of them would actually debate feelings. They would never open up to saying, wow, I'm scared about this, or this makes me feel, hurt, or whatever. I feel like you're not listening. That type of dialogue would never happen. It doesn't really happen between our leaders in this day and age. So that's why I'm issuing, hey Ryan, and that's why I'm kind of putting myself out there and saying I'm willing to talk to anyone about any controversial topic, as long as we do it in a different format than normal. Instead of debating each other where the intention is to win the argument, the intention is to understand each other's feelings underneath the argument. It's a different mentality. It's a much, much, much different mentality. And, this comes from personal experience, where if I try to sell someone on personal training, if I try to sell someone, it doesn't work, right? If I try to convince someone with facts, oh, ma'am or sir, you are overweight and you need to lose this much weight. This is a fact. That never convinces anyone. No way in hell. But people, when they can feel heard and listened to, they become open to actually changing their mindset, their behavior, and so forth. So, yeah. Anyways, that about wraps it up. You can like, comment, message me, whatever. Putting myself out there. Really believe in this whole emotional intelligence stuff. And one expression of emotional intelligence is having debates in a more rational and perhaps more heartfelt way. With that being said, rock on. Have a great holiday. Happy President's Day. Maybe we'll be debating that soon. Anyways, rock on.